Call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of September 22nd, 2020 at, I have 7:05 p.m. It's a web-based meeting hosted by Zoom. First on our agenda is a public hearing continued, Codfish and DeMarco LLC 4-lot subdivision and special permit, 29 Benedict Road, Parcel B. At our last meeting, we did open and read the legal notice, and we still have the staff report to read. So Kitty, would you like to read the staff report?
Oh, sure, if you want, no problem. Planning and Zoning, Beth Cabagna, Planning Director, Staff Report, 29B Benedict Road, Subdivision 4 lots, September 8th, 2020. The property located in the R20 residential half-acre zone consists of 6.419 acres, of which three-quarters of an acre is wetlands. Over the last 12 months, various conceptual plans were reviewed with the staff, including a 7-lot subdivision with a road connecting to Colonial Drive. In the current configuration, the developer took into consideration the existing surrounding neighborhoods and the natural features of the property. The property is serviced by sewer.
Do you need help with today's homework?
Excuse me, somebody's going to have to mute. We can
Yeah,
hear
that's me. I'm going to do it right now. Sorry about that.
Oh, is that Robin?
Robin, the kids, everyone's going crazy.
And she owes me a cupcake.
Okay, of the 6.419 acres, close to 25% or 2.68 is proposed for open space. Note 10% is required under section 3.05 of the subdivision regulations. Variances were granted in May of 2020 to allow for 2 rear lots in the R20 half-acre zone. Rear lots are usually reserved for R40 and R80 zones. A variance was also granted to have 2 rear lot driveways adjacent to each other. Due to the amount of activity proposed closest to the road, it is recommended that street trees be incorporated into the plan under section 4.08 of the subdivision regulations, which calls for 3-inch caliber trees, quote, no less than 150 feet, one per 50 feet of road frontage or part of thereof, sorry. The use of rain gardens is encouraged, but a detail should be located on the site plans. Health Department, Fire Marshal, and Police Commission have no comment on the application. The Wright Pierce memo dated 9/6/2020 is attached.
Thank you, Kitty. Beth, just a question. The Health Department, Fire Marshal, and Police Commission have no comment. So they have no comment, positive or negative?
Basically, it's serviced by sewer and water, so it didn't need to go to the health department. The
Okay.
fire marshal did scribble a note saying he had no issues, and police commission, same thing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so moving on. Mike Mizuko, I see you're here. Did you want to talk to this application?
I didn't know if Peter wanted to do an intro.
Yes,
Oh,
of course I do.
Peter?
Peter Olson.
Yeah, you can't forget about me. Can you give me the power to share my screen, please?
That authorization has been granted, Peter.
Great. I've got the existing conditions map up. Good evening. My name is Peter Olson. I'm an attorney with an office here in Bethel at 275 Greenwood Avenue. My firm name is Land Use and Conservation Counsel. I'm here tonight on behalf of Codfish and DeMarco LLC, who is the owner of the property. The principals are Jeffrey Bruno and Stephen DeMarco, both of whom you're well familiar with as local developers. Codfish and DeMarco LLC purchased this property late last year in the form of one parcel of about 7 acres with an existing house on it. We proceeded to record a first cut map to cut off the existing house, which I'm circling with my cursor. Maybe I can highlight that. Maybe not. The existing house, we cut that off and it's been sold and there's a woman living there now. To orient you all, this is the turnaround for Colonial Drive, just to the south of our property. Benedict Road is on the west side, and you can see Fox Den Road up here on the upper left. As Beth mentioned, we went to the Zoning Board of Appeals first to pull the variances that were necessary to develop the property in the way that it's presented to you. And I'm just going to scroll down to that plan. We have 4 lots proposed, lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, and an open space parcel in the rear of 2.68 acres. In order for this particular plan to work, we needed 3 variances. The first is to allow rear lots at all in the R20 zone, because the zoning regulations only allow them in R40 and R80. That variance was granted, so rear lots are permitted. The second is this lot 3 as a rear lot was undersized for the rear lot requirements. Those were that you have twice the minimum lot size, and this is only the minimum lot size. So that was the second variance that was granted, is to permit a rear lot that wasn't double the minimum size for the zone. And then the third variance was to allow 2 access ways adjacent to each other. We weren't sure whether the regulations prohibit this. It doesn't really speak to it, but we thought it was close for the variance anyway, and the Zoning Board of Appeals gave it to us. So those are the 3 variances that have been granted. The certificate's been recorded, and that enables this subdivision map to work. As Beth noted in her staff report, we had several other plans for development of the property. One of them had a road coming in from Benedict that then allowed development of this area in the rear of the property for an additional 2 lots. So we would have ended up with 7 lots total. I think at the end of the day, the wetlands crossing made this fairly prohibitively expensive, in addition to just constructing a road, as well as having the most possible impact on those wetlands. The second plan we looked at that we actually really liked was this lot 4, which is shown at 1.4 acres, was essentially split in half. And it was 2 lots with a second lot right here where I'm circling. This lot would be served by the Colonial Drive entrance, coming right off the end of Colonial Drive. And what we decided at the end of the day was that that was also too big of an impact and too much of an imposition on the neighborhood at the end of Colonial Drive. So by taking it out, there is no access onto Colonial Drive. That ends up with this plan here, 4 lots plus the 5th lot in the form of the existing home. The property is located in the Aquifer Protection Zone, but we aren't proposing any activities that would be prohibited under those zones. The application before you is for a subdivision, as well as a special permit to enable those rear lots. Even though we asked for a variance to allow a rear lot in the R20, it was allow a rear lot in the R20 by special permit. So that has to be issued by you as well for this subdivision plan to work. We don't have any problem with Beth's suggestion that we incorporate some street trees as a condition of approval. Let Mike go into detail on the rain garden and his drainage approach. The last legal item, I guess, to address is this outflow area here with the riprap and the 3 pipes that are leading essentially across lot 3 and across the driveway on lot 4 into this area on lot 2. Our intention is that we will do a maintenance agreement that will apply to all 4 lots. The individual lot owner is going to be responsible for maintaining the portion of the drainage system that is on their property. However, the cost of that will be borne by all 4 lot owners. Most of the time, what we're talking about is take a shovel and clean out some silt and leaves and whatever. So there shouldn't really be a cost, but just in case something collapses and has to be repaired, we thought it was important to put a maintenance sharing obligation in there to cover that. And I think that addresses one of Ray Pierce's comments. We did send notice of this public hearing to everybody who's an abutting property owner within 100 feet. Because of the executive orders related to COVID-19, the only requirement for notice is that we email everybody, but obviously we don't have the email addresses for all the property owners. So we sent it by regular mail, and that should have been accomplished. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Mike Mizuko, and if you could let him share his screen, I will take mine off and let him take you through his engineering plans.
Thank you, Peter.
Screen sharing is enabled for you, Mike.
Thank you. For the record, Mike Mizuko, professional engineer. My office is in Danbury, representing the applicant. And as Peter had mentioned, the property, most of the property, as you can see here on the area map, is located in the aquifer protection zone. And as he noted, that there's no activities that are proposed that are prohibited. I did add some notes about washing of vehicles. I mean, we normally show something for washing of cement trucks just for the washing of the drum, but I did add a note about not washing any construction vehicles or vehicles other than that purpose. We don't have any hits on the natural diversity database area. And you can see we don't have any flood hazard areas adjacent to the site in the top left corner. And Peter had showed you the existing conditions map. The only thing I would add to here is just the shaded areas, the light shaded areas are slopes in excess of 25%. Most of that occurs on the eastern side of the property in this area, and which is going to be all incorporated in the open space. The site drains from the easterly side, drains westward towards the center, past, well, it actually drains, some of it drains into that wetland area that extends from the southerly property line to the northerly property line. Some of it drains across that wetland towards the other small wetland. Some of that drains to the southerly part of it and then turns sort of easterly and heads off to the adjacent property owner, and there's a culvert there that picks up that flow. The side on Benedict Road drains easterly towards the center of that smaller wetland area, and there is a pipe that drains down through the middle of the property here that picks up, I think it's a little less than 10 acres of the off-site watershed. And there's an existing 12-inch pipe that is undersized. And so I'll show you where we're replacing that. Peter just briefly spoke about that. I did locate some trees out there. There are some along the street frontage, and I did revise the plan to show some additional trees to meet the requirement of 50-foot spacing, the 3-inch calipers. And I also added a detail to the detail sheet just for a planting detail and specifications on that. But in this area here, it's in the middle of the site, we're going to be replacing the 12-inch pipe with a 24-inch pipe. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more. And originally we had a catch basin over that 24-inch, but when I modeled it as a junction, the hydraulic grade line was coming out over the top of the catch basin elevation. So I just took it off to the side and installed a separate pipe that just runs parallel to the 24-inch. But each of the sites has a rain garden, which we did add a detail to the detail sheet. So it picks up, we tried to place them at the end of the driveway to pick up the runoff from the driveway as well as the roof runoff, size them to hold the water quality volume per the stormwater manual. And there it is at the end of the driveway for lot 2. On lot 3, it's sitting in this location here, again, picking up the driveway runoff. And then on lot 4, again, driveway runoff to a swale along here that heads into this rain garden in this area, as well as the roof runoff. The 2 rear lots, 3 and 4, will have pump stations for their sewer, because the elevation, it just drops down too low. So those 2 will have a pump station and pump up to the main in Benedict. As far as grading, again, most of the steep slopes were on the eastern side. There's not a lot of severe grading. It is, sometimes sites are harder to work with when they're really flat. In this case, it's very tight in terms of the design. You can't vary it too much because water is designed to flow in a certain direction. And if you start raising or lowering it, you're going to mess up the drainage. So it's very critical that the plan be followed pretty much as drawn. So I just like to point that out. And we did pick up a little bit of drainage here, so it's not crossing the driveway from the existing parcel A. Sort of drains down towards lot 3. So we just have a little inlet here that picks up water and brings it across to another catch basin here and then dumps out. So you have 3 outlets on this point here that riprap to the south side of the driveway for lot 4. Now that's really about it. It's pretty straightforward. And I can go just really quick to the details. So rain garden detail, tree planting, the soil test data that we had, just a typical water connection, sewer clean out, catch basin. I didn't put a pump station detail on there, but the individual site plans, when they're drawn when they do the construction, will have a pump station detail on there. And then erosion control standard details. So that's about it. If you want, I can stop sharing the screen, or if you have questions, whatever you want me to do, I'll do.
Mike, could you just explain what a rain garden is and why we would use it?
Sure. So if I go back to this detail, I'll zoom in a little bit. It's really just more of like a detention basin, sort of planted with plants that allows water to drain down. They're also designed per the Connecticut Stormwater Manual to hold the water quality volume, which is essentially a 1 inch of rainfall event on the impervious surfaces. And that's why the outlet pipe, the outlet control device, is set higher to store that volume without discharge. Then after that, it's regulated by that outlet control device, and then up to this 25-year storm event. And then there's usually we have just an emergency spillway just in case. So it has a point where it can't have relief in a larger storm event.
Thanks, Mike.
Sure.
We were able to submit written reports responding to all the comments that were presented to us. And I think we've been able to do that. So there's nothing more that we would like to present at this time. And we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Peter, I'm sorry. So you responded to all of the Wright Pierce comments?
Yes, we have. But I guess I should say wetlands did act to approve this last night.
Okay.
There's no need to wait for them.
Okay, I just had one question from Wright Pierce. And I'm sorry, Mike, you may have addressed this. It said that lot 3, the rain garden, is a lot closer than 25 feet from building foundations, which is the minimum down gradient distance recommended by the 2004 CT Stormwater Quality Manual.
All right, and Mike Mizuko for the record. My response to that is that that's mainly for like a basement, and this portion of the dwelling is just a frost wall because that's where the garage is. The basement part of it, the living area, is on the other side. And
Where exactly is the rain garden?
it's right in this area here. It's deeper on this end towards the south, and then it just more shallow as it goes further up, just so it picks up water from some of the back of the yard, and it pitches down into this area here.
If you don't mind, while we're there, you talked about how much maintenance, how the maintenance is going to have to be done on the one drain. Does the rain garden require any maintenance?
Very little. I mean, the plants will have to be maintained. Usually I just called out for a wet meadow mix on the bottom and just standard grass on the sides. It doesn't have to be mowed all the time like a lawn, but probably once or twice a year just to get it, to keep it at bay.
Okay.
Other than that, no.
Thank you. I wasn't aware.
Can I speak in regards to that, Pat?
Sure.
In regards to a lot of the rain gardens that we've had done in town, We do like to see plantings in there. It is a garden, not a moat, not a grassed area. I think that the owners of the property are familiar with some of the designs that we've used in the past. One that comes to mind in particular was their property on Grand Street. So maybe at the time of construction, we can get a little bit more detail.
Okay.
Thank you. And Mike, I apologize. Did you speak to, Wright Pierce wanted details for soil stockpile management?
Well, I did, my response to that was we do show soil stockpile areas on each of the sites. And that will get carried over when the individual site plans are done, as well as having an erosion control narrative. So beyond that, I don't know. I mean, that's typically what we do on subdivision plans and individual site plans, but more detail will be available on the individual site plans once building permits are sought.
Okay, thank you. All right, Peter, anything else before we move to public questions?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As this is a public hearing, we'll move out to the public. There is an option to raise your hand. So if you'd like to ask a question about this application, you may. David, are you seeing any?
At this time, I am not, Pat.
Okay, then we will move over to
Oh,
commission.
I am seeing one, excuse me.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, this is Carrie Augustine. I'm the owner of 21 Benedict, so the property right next door. Looking at all of these rain gardens and the runoff situations, we already have a flooding issue at this property. Our basement floods. Our backyard has a little makeshift moat kind of because that floods. I'm just concerned with all of these basins made and these gardens made that how and if that's going to affect my property with taking down all of these trees and really having nothing to catch that water and absorb that water and having a bigger issue on my property.
Peter, do you want to address that?
Sure, we can do them one at a time, or if there's any.
I don't think we're going to have many people asking questions.
Okay. Could I just ask, Ms. Augustine, do you have the property to the south or to the north?
21, we're right next door to lot.
Lot 1, I believe that is.
Okay, so that's to the south. So the legal standard for any subdivision is that we cannot increase peak runoff. And so our plan does not do that. But let me have Mike Mizuko talk about how the stormwater system he's designed will actually make the situation out there better. I think he'll be able to say that. Mike.
Well, I think the important thing is that we control the water and flow from any of the developed areas on the site. Yeah, you're going to have trees gone, but areas replaced by that. But all of the impervious surfaces for the driveways as well as the roofs will drain into the rain gardens and be controlled. And that flow will continue to flow in its natural direction. We're not changing the flows at all in any of the rain gardens. It all generally flows towards the center and then heads south. So, we're not going to be impacting anything in the development of Lot 1 on your property. In fact, if you look at the contours, there's a little bit of a kind of a ridge right here along that stone wall, and all of that is running down into this site and kind of like where that rain garden is. And then we're just going to pick that up and then dump it out. Well, actually the discharge from the outlet control is headed in this direction. And then the emergency overflow is just here, but then that'll just continue to drain down and then into that wetland area where I believe there's another inlet pipe or a swale along this drainage easement that picks up this water.
Mike, will the replacement of the pipe running from the northern property line down to the riprap on lot 2 improve the drainage situation on the property?
Well, I mean, it will improve the drainage system because it's undersized. So, you know, whether that pipe, and I think it was probably blocked anyway. So, you know, it wouldn't take long for the water to back up and then flow across this property because of the inadequacy and the failure of that pipe, because most of it, I think, is buried. And it was probably plugged up anyway. It was non-functional. So, you know, to that regard, it's an improvement. But, you know, the idea is to maintain the flow that was intended by the installation of that 12-inch pipe to get the water flowing from the northerly side to the southerly side, which was its natural course.
Thanks, Mike.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to ask a question about this application?
Can you hear me now? I'm just trying to find out. My name's Alan Gambino. I live at 28 Benedict Road.
Yes, we can hear you.
I was just wondering what the time frame is and what are the, you know, when we start construction, are we going to be like at 6 o'clock in the morning and 9 o'clock at night working across there? And, you know, how's that going to disrupt the current neighborhood environment? That's all. I mean, the plans look good, but I'm just, you know, dirt, dust, containment, all that other stuff, living in a residential area that's established and then having construction happening around you. And I
guess there's two.
I don't know what the town rules are on that anyhow, so.
There's two answers. First is there will be conditions of approval that will incorporate hours of operation. I've worked with my 2 clients on a number of projects and I don't know of any complaints about them starting early or finishing late. They're good neighbors when they're doing construction. And in fact, they're currently finishing, one of them is currently finishing a development just down the street from me. And I haven't had any issues with that. Second is the real estate market right now is absolutely red hot. And we expect that once we get hopefully an approval from this commission that we'll be able to sell these houses very quickly and just go build them. Frankly, getting them, you know, started and finished quickly is in the interest of everybody involved. It saves my clients on cost, both interest in development, and gets them in and out of the development as quickly as they can. So they would move as quickly as they can. And my experience with them is that they move very quickly. So I hope that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, are there any other questions?
Hi, it's Carrie Augustine again. Can you just please show us where this road is going to be for people to access the properties? I see in lot 1, it looks like their driveway is coming right off of Benedict and going to the, so their house is going to be facing our driveway, it appears, their garage. So that's.
Yeah, just to be clear, there's no road proposed. Each
Okay.
house has its own driveway.
Okay.
Lots 1 and 2 have driveways served directly from Benedict. I guess maybe I should be clear about what a subdivision approval is. Theoretically, what the map is that's shown is a demonstration that the subdivision and the lots can be constructed in accordance with the zoning regulations. So it's unlikely that the houses that are built will be exact rectangles that fit in that exact space. But yes, as shown here, the garage doors would face you. That design could change in the final design of the house.
Okay, so
And then lots 3 and 4, the driveways are between lot 2 and the existing house.
so.
Okay, thank you.
So
All right, is any other questions? David, are you seeing anything?
Not at this time, Pat.
Okay, all right, then we'll move to commission questions. Kitty,
The only question I have, and that bothers me a bit, is the drainage there. The one that the property owner of, what is it, 2 has to clean out? Is that one piece there that he has to clean out once or twice a year, you said? Yeah, right there.
Yeah,
Right.
so let me have Mike tell you what's required to maintain that type of a system. Mike?
Please, because I just, having had the experience, when things are in a deed, a lot of times people don't read them as well as they should. And something like this, I think is going to be extremely important that they're made aware of every single part of that, because the runoff there could affect all of the properties and the property down below. So that was just a point that bothered me about that. And the one other little tiny thing here, where you show Foxden Road on the corner there, does it make a difference that I think that's Chimney Drive?
It might be Chimney Drive. I think the survey's been corrected to show that.
I mean, I know it is a silly point. I'm sorry, but I live right there. So
Yeah, no, that was brought up the last time too. Somebody brought up that.
Yeah, the actual survey was corrected because somebody had brought that up, and I guess it didn't make it to the engineering plan.
So those are the only two items I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kitty. John?
Good evening, everyone. This is directed to Attorney Olson. And I'm sure you're all over it, but I didn't realize you could have one subdivision with 2 rear lots. I thought you're only allowed 1 rear lot per subdivision, but you're going to school me here.
Well, you're a new commission member, so
I know
you don't know these things, but there's no prohibition against multiple rear lots in a subdivision. There are prohibitions against multiple adjacent rear lots. And that's why we went and got the variance that allowed those 2 driveways to be next to each other.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so 2 driveways is what covers that.
Right. And in addition, there's, we can't do rear lots in this zone anyway. But we went and got that variance to allow them to exist in the zone in the first place.
Okay, and I appreciate the variances. I think the variants were granted for the right reasons. I think it really fits the neighborhood. Is it the applicant's wish, or do you think that they're gonna have 1 common driveway even though there's 2 25-foot cuts for it? Or, I just don't like how the 2 driveways look. I understand now that it had to be done that way, but do you think they're gonna have 1 common driveway with the ability to have a separate driveway later, or what do you think their thoughts are?
At this point, it's 2 adjacent driveways. There is a perception in the marketplace that having your own driveway is better. And so it keeps it simple for us to be able to say, yeah, you have your own driveway. So that's our intention right now.
Yeah, I just think the look looks like a runway, and then it's more impervious surface, and they're obviously side by side doing the same thing. But I guess if I was going to purchase a house, I would want control of my own driveway. But I'm just thinking the look. But great, that's all I have, Pat. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Can I speak to that?
Ken?
I had one question on the south, I think it's the southwest corner. It shows a little bit of, it says a gravel drive. What is that and where's it going?
So that's a driveway that serves Ms. Augustine's house that crosses this property, and there's a recorded easement in the land records that allows that.
All right. Everything looks fine to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Bob Legnard.
I'm good.
I see Rich Tibbetts isn't with us. Linda.
Going back to Kitty's question about that catch basin area, that there is a shared maintenance cost. Is there going to be an HOA?
No, we don't form homeowners associations anymore to do that kind of an issue. What we will have is a maintenance agreement. One of the things that this site design requires is some cross easements for drainage near the property lines. So there'll be sort of a combination document that handles the cross easements for drainage, as well as the maintenance obligation for cleaning out those various areas. As I said, the annual maintenance is really not that hard. It's a little bit of work with a shovel. My
Right.
concern as a lawyer and selling these lots is what happens if the pipe collapses and has to be replaced?
Hmm.
That's a cost
Yeah.
that needs to be shared among the 4 property owners. Now,
Yeah,
there is a statute that allows that automatically, but I find it's better to have those things in writing and recorded in land records and part of everybody's deed. As Kitty said, people don't always know what's in their deeds, but better to belt and suspenders it.
So is the town then going to be responsible for collecting those fees?
No.
Who is?
Well, the answer is if I'm the property owner on lot 2 and it costs me $1,000 to maintain this system, I'm going to send a bill to my neighbors under the maintenance agreement, and they're going to have to each pay me $250. That's how I'd set it up. Having a homeowners association is just far too much infrastructure and bureaucracy for what in most years is not going to even need to be shared.
No,
Because
I
I'm gonna
agree.
Go out
It's
with a
minimal.
shovel in the morning in April and shovel it out for a couple hours and it's done. You know?
Yeah, I
What would
agree.
the
It's minimal.
consequences, what would the consequences be if they don't clean it?
Water overflow or the pipe will
Yeah,
go.
I mean, at that point, the town may have to get involved and say, you have to clean this.
Okay.
Thank you, Linda. Rob Wallace.
Got it on mute there. So I understand the everything on the subdivision plan here. I don't really have any questions about that. I assume that once the subdivisions are set to be developed, that this will come for review to the commission again.
Not to the commission, no.
No, that's
Okay.
not
Now
correct.
just go to the architectural review board, or
No, it goes to the department, Rob. It goes to the department. We review it for ENS controls. It
okay,
does
so
go
this-
to our engineer again for one more review, just to ensure that everything on the plan is as should be.
Great.
For each individual lot.
Okay, that was the only question I had.
Thank you, Rob. Rob Stoll.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. All right. Beth, did you want to add anything?
I did when the dog stopped drinking. I apologize for that. I just wanted to remind the commission that this was, it's a very unusual piece of property because it's approximately 6 acres that's been sitting there for 5 years.
Right.
So I think a lot of consideration was taken into effect what could possibly be developed there, considering that it has water and sewer. And it's not unusual to work with the town and the developer and the zoning board of appeals to create the situation that we have today versus taking a piece of property that is from East Subdivision and asking for rear lots or more lots or things of that nature. I just want to clarify that this is really, truly, it was a raw piece of land and it's its first subdivision.
Okay, thank you,
I
Beth.
think it works out very well.
All right, so I'm going to ask the commission, are you in favor of closing this public hearing tonight? If I may have all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? This public hearing is closed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, we have a new public hearing, Cooper Brook LLC, special permit, addition to existing building, 17 Francis J. Clark Circle.
Okay, shall I read the public notice?
Yes, please.
The Bethel Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on September 22nd, 2020 at 7 p.m. using the virtual platform Zoom to hear the application of Cooper Brook LLC for property located at 17 F.J. Clark Park Circle for a special permit to construct a 2,500 square foot addition to an existing building. This property can be found in the tax assessor's office as map 9, block 23, and lot 150-10A. The public may send comments via regular mail and email at the landuse@bethelct.gov. Comments must be received by September 21st, 2020 by 4 p.m. in order to be included in the hearing. Pat Rist, Chairman.
Thank you. Beth, I don't believe we have a memorandum from you on this, but we do have the Artel Engineering memo?
Yes, but before you do that, I do have verbal comments because in my opinion, it was a very minor request that they were asking for.
Right.
Because the proposed project is about 2,250 square foot addition to an existing structure. But under our zoning regulations, a public hearing is required for any addition exceeding 1,000 square feet in the IP zone.
Okay,
The item was not referred to the consulting engineer for stormwater review because at the time of the subdivision of the F.J. Clark subdivision, all the stormwater management was put in place by the town of Bethel in spots located throughout. The fire marshal was requested to review the access and he had no problem. And I have no other further comments to add.
okay, thank you so much.
That's my screen.
All right, I'm sorry. Who's representing this application? I just got knocked off of Zoom.
Me too.
Michelle McCullough.
It's Michelle McCauley with Artel Engineering.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. David, can I share my screen?
Screen sharing is enabled.
Thank you.
David, do you know why we would have been knocked off Zoom?
I do not. That sounds unusual.
I'm off too. I can hear, but I can't see anything.
I'm still here.
I'm still on here. I can see everyone.
By
Strange.
design.
Okay, I'm back.
Everyone's good?
Yes.
No, it's
Okay.
like- that's okay. I can hear, so that's fine.
Okay. As I said, my name is Michelle McCauley. I'm with Artel Engineering. I'm representing the applicant, Cooper Brook. Before you tonight is 17 Francis J. Clark Circle, which is located in the Francis J. Clark Business Park. The project is, or the site is 2.35 acres, and it's currently developed with an existing building in the center portion of the site, and associated parking to the south. It's all lawn area with a wooded steep slope to the west. This is the existing conditions map. I could show you the Google map just to get perspective. This is Francis J. Clark Circle. This is the entrance. This is the parking lot, the existing building, the lawn areas, and then the wooded slope in the rear of the building. We are proposing, as Beth said, a 2,250 square foot addition in the rear of the building, which is located here. Currently, there's some drainage that runs underneath the building, so we're proposing to reroute the drainage around the rear of the building and connecting it back into the existing building. In doing that, we're adding some riprap to an existing intermittent ditch swale that catches the runoff from that wooded hillside. So we're going to put a riprap in a new end section and pipe it into a new catch basin. In addition, there's 4 parking spots in the front of the building, or on that left side of the building, south side of the building, that we're going to eliminate because they're going to have a bay door on that new addition. The building is currently being utilized with a millworking company. They make cabinets, and they're just expanding. They're just getting bigger, and they just need more room for their operations. So the parking, we currently have 22 parking spaces, and with the elimination of the 4, we'll have 18, and per the code, we'll still have enough parking spaces. It's pretty minor nature. We were before the Wetlands Commission last night and received approval for the project. It's kind of all I have. It's pretty basic and straightforward.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
As this is a public hearing, we will reach out to the public. Is there anyone that has a question? If so, please raise your hand. David, are you seeing anything?
I am not at this time.
Okay, then we'll move directly to commission members. I have no questions. Kitty?
No, I have no questions.
John?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ken?
Just a minor comment. It's good to see someone is expanding a business in Bethel.
Linda?
No questions.
Rob Wallace?
Sorry,
Rob Wallace,
no
sorry.
questions. I'm just trying to orient myself to where the property is. You said you had a Google map. I'm
yeah.
pulling it up alongside here also.
Yeah, I could put it back. I could zoom it out a little bit so you can get a
It's between.
Rob, do you know where
Chromatics.
Chameleon is in the park?
No, sorry, I'm looking. Okay, I'm looking at it now. So it's just next to Steinmetz Chromatics. Okay, yeah, got
Yeah,
it.
you see it? Okay.
Yep, got it. Okay,
Uh,
no questions. That was
questions?
it.
Rob Stoll, questions?
Just a probably non-related one. Michelle, that dotted line, which kind of gets pointy inside the building and then curves away. What is, I can't read what that represents.
That's just the 100-foot upland review area for the regulated off of the wetland and the stream, that the intermittent water course. That's
Fine,
what-
I was just curious as to what that was. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beth, do you have any further comments?
No, I don't.
All right, if I may, I'll put this to the commissioners. Is everyone in agreement? We can close this public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? This public hearing is closed. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Moving on to our business meeting, I'm going to seat Rob Wallace for Penny, and I'm going to seat Linda for Rich Tibbetts. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes of September 8th?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of September 8th.
Second.
Go ahead.
There was there was a minor typo.
Okay.
Let me just pull it up. Hold on. Everything's on screens now. I don't have printed paper in front of me.
No
Let me go back here. I'm sorry. Yes, just under the schedule, right towards the very end. And this was on the Johnson School review. Just a misspelling of the word components under the schedule section, last sentence of the schedule.
Okay.
That's me, Mr. Proofreader here. Otherwise, all looks great.
Okay, I'll take care of that.
All right, are there any further discussion on the meeting minutes? I'm going to sneeze, I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Moving on, next on our agenda is the work session for Codfish and DeMarco LLC, the 4-lot subdivision and special permit, 29 Benedict Road, Parcel B. So if we want to start with any comments. Anyone can begin.
Okay.
There are no comments from anyone?
John, you have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I guess I'll say something. I think it's a great use. I think that with water and sewer there, I think as a town, we're lucky that we have a responsible applicant that's coming in and doing a reasonable project for the neighborhood in character with the neighborhood. So I think that we should do a consensus vote and ask the official to draft a motion of approval. That would be my opinion.
Thank you, John. I totally agree.
Are there any other comments before we will move it forward for a vote?
I agree with John that it is the responsible use of that property. And I think it'd be a benefit to the neighborhood. Thank you.
I wish I had $1 for every time Bob agreed with me.
You'd be broke. Any other comments? All right, are we all in agreement to move this forward with a consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
Well,
Motion.
but it's not a motion. It's just a consensus vote to have Beth draft
Beth draft something
a motion
for us.
of
That's
approval.
correct.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
correct.
Yep.
Motion. It's a consensus.
It's
I
a
got it.
consensus, not a motion. Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right, so Beth, you're good with that. Now, can we add Clark Park to the work session?
Make a
Sure.
motion to add Clark Park to the Work session.
Bob, you made the motion. Who seconded it?
I'll second
second.
that, Linda.
Yep.
Thanks, Kitty. All right. Again, we're going to be looking for a consensus to send this forward. Would someone like to begin the communication?
Can I make a suggestion to the commission?
Absolutely.
I think this is one of those areas that in the future you want to look at your regulations to change them so we're not running into these type of situations. For anything 2,000 square feet, it really should be an administrative approval. It shouldn't be going to the commission. That being said, I'm very comfortable if you want to make a motion to approve this application this evening with your standard stipulations that you use for most of your site plans. I can work with that and have Pat review it.
Okay. Are we all in favor with that?
Yes.
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 Okay, no
I'll do that
discussion,
motion.
no concerns, John?
No, it's not a consensus. I think Beth was saying that as a commission, somebody could make a motion to approve, and we would
That's what
need
we're
a
doing.
second, and then we could take the vote, and then she would put it in
He's
her
going to
form.
draft for us with the stipulations.
It's not draft. You have a list of standard conditions that you
That's
Yeah,
fair.
exactly.
use in site plans that you refer to many different aspects, and that would just include that.
Okay. All right, would someone like to make a
Motion.
comment, John?
I think Bob just made a motion, and I'd be honored to second his motion.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you very much. And Michelle, say hello to, oh, my friend, Will Jones.
Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Michelle,
Have a good night.
before you leave- Michelle, before you leave,
Yes.
is that a cell behind you? What fish is that behind you?
Oh, it's actually my picture.
Yes.
That's actually Ayers Rock from Australia.
Oh, okay. Very nice. Okay.
I got it. I went to Australia like 15 years ago. I got it when I was in Australia.
Nice.
Have a great night.
Thank you, you too,
Bye.
thank you.
Bye.
Okay, under new business, site plan, special permit for parking, discussion, 155 Greenwood Avenue. Beth, did you want to talk about this?
No, I would like to turn it over. This is a very presentation. Alyssa's here and also Peter Olson, so I would share the screen with both of them if you can.
Okay,
Just a brief overview of the project. You will have to schedule a public hearing
right,
due to the request for a parking reduction, and I'm going to suggest October 27th.
correct.
With that, let them do their spiel.
Okay,
Great. Again, this is Peter Olson. Alyssa Volpati is part of our project team, and she's here tonight as well. And I think Steve DeMarco is listening, or at least he was earlier. I'm here on his behalf tonight. Steve is the contract purchaser of 155 Greenwood Avenue, which I just put up on my screen for you to see with the Google Street View. This is Bethel Medical Group's old building. Dr. Volpentesta practiced and Dr. Shapiro practiced here for many years. Steve has entered into a contract to purchase the property, and we'd like to redevelop it. Steve is nearing the conclusion of Chestnut Corner. I hope that you've all driven up there and seen the nice development that's done there. 10 of the buildings are essentially, done and closed in. 9 of them, and the last one's going up right now. We've closed on 5 of those units. 2 more will be closed within a week, and then the last 4 are sold and will be in November. So we're moving right along. Time for another project. I'm very excited about this project. I've been thinking and talking about this particular property for 5 years now, both as part of the TOD development plan of development edition, as well as with Dr. Volpentesta himself, and now with Steve DeMarco. I think he's getting tired of my pointy-headed plannerness with this project. So just to take you through it a little bit, the property runs all the way from Greenwood Avenue to School Street. The old house is on Greenwood Avenue in the front here. This tree seems a little bit older than it is, or a little bit younger than it is actually now, and I don't know who got caught in the Google Street View picture. There is a driveway entrance right here that goes into the back, and then there's an adjacent driveway that's not on our property that serves the Wells Fargo piece. Let's see if I can figure out how to share a second page. Did the second image come up?
Not yet.
You? All right, let me see if I can do it this way. So starting in 2016, you engaged outside consultants and prepared a TOD plan for the downtown. This is the image that's in the plan for this property. Now, we'll talk a little bit about the fact they took some liberties with the property line and making it look like it could go straight to the municipal center, dead center at the end of it. It doesn't quite line up that way, but this is the vision. This is the idea for a pedestrian alley that runs from Greenwood Avenue to School Street with pedestrian-oriented businesses on either side. We interpret that as meaning small retail space, small restaurant type space, maybe some tables and chairs on the alleyway, et cetera, et cetera. But this picture, this is what we are going to try to implement via our plan. We do want to scroll to the left here a little bit for language in your plan, which says priority phase 1 items in the TOD, incentivize the pedestrian passage connecting Greenwood to School Street. We don't actually need you to financially incentivize us except for a couple of small items. But we think this is an important language that the things that we are going to ask you for are directly recommended by this plan, which is now part of your plan of development. So the application that we filed is for a site plan. Applications in the TOD only require a site plan approval. So that's the basic application. However, we are going to need a parking reduction in order to make this project work at all. And specifically, we are going to ask you to reduce the parking required for the commercial spaces to 0. Our goal is that these commercial spaces are going to be served by existing parking in the downtown. That's on street parking as well as other parking that is available publicly for people who are going to patronize this pedestrian-based street, essentially is what it is. We are going to provide 16 parking spaces on site. That will serve the 18 residential units that we are proposing. Certainly there'll be times during the day when those spaces are going to be available because the people who live there are going to be gone. But most part, at night parking is going to be reserved for the residents. Except maybe the handicap spot. That's obviously, needed for the commercial uses. In order for that to work, and this is where we get to the incentivize language, we're going to need the town to make some concessions in terms of what to do with vehicles overnight in the wintertime. What we would like is for this commission to make it clear to the town administration that the municipal parking lots, and that includes the library as well as the municipal center, should be available for overnight parking in the wintertime when people can't leave their car on the street in street parking. Something that the town can do by a simple vote of the Board of Selectmen to allow that. And that's crucial to making this project work. Second, we'd like to have the commission look at reconfiguring parking in the downtown. Some of the things that we've thought about are potentially making School Street a one-way with angled-in parking. That's the kind of creative thought that we'd like you to express as we go through this process. Things that make developments like this work without the dedicated parking. So that's essentially what we want you to incentivize us with. Finally, this pedestrian alley, we're going to provide 8 feet of it on our property on the assumption that if and when Wells Fargo comes up with a mirror development on their side of the property line, they would provide another 8 feet, and we'd end up with a pedestrian alley that's 16 feet wide. That is wide enough for a fire truck to get all the way from School Street to Greenwood Avenue, which we think is important. That alleyway, we will grant an easement to the town of Bethel for public access. And in return, we would like the town to maintain it. And that means shoveling it in the wintertime, sweeping it in the summertime, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's the second part of the incentivization. We'd like this to act as a public street, take the liability and the responsibility away from the property development, and have the town do it. We think those are some relatively minor requests of the commission to make a development like this happen. And hopefully you're amenable to it. We appreciate the public hearing being scheduled for the parking reduction. Our hope is in the interim time period between now and then, we'll have some back and forth with the engineers to get all the little details ironed out. It is a fairly straightforward site plan that we've proposed. But obviously the engineers are going to weigh in on a bunch of that. So that's all I have to say, but I do want to have the fun part for you, which is to show you our vision for the property. And to do that, I'm going to let Alyssa Volpati take you through what we've proposed. Alyssa.
Thank you, Peter. Can I share my screen or not yet?
Thank you.
And I've never done screen sharing before, so hopefully I will be able to. Let's see.
While she's bringing that up, I'll just say that we engaged an architectural firm out of New York called Nexus.
Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay.
John Fry and Jacqueline Tyler from Nexus have helped in the development of this plan, and Alyssa is under contract with that architectural firm to provide consulting services. So
I was just gonna.
we were fortunate enough to get her on our team.
Yes, and I couldn't be more excited. This project is pretty much an architect's dream, living in Bethel for 20 years, and to work on, something so important in the downtown area. I just am thrilled. I can't even tell you how excited I am to work on this. I'm just bringing up the aerial. We all know the site. We all know, as Peter mentioned, the configuration of it, but I just wanted to again reiterate the long, narrow shape of it is a challenge. The slope of it, it actually slopes about 15 feet down from Greenwood Avenue to the municipal center. So there's a grade change. And also, as Peter mentioned, that vision that we all saw with the access on the municipal center, as you can see, the property line on the west side is actually skewed. So, that vision is kind of deceiving in a way, but it's actually not, a huge deal, but I just wanted to point that out. And again, this aerial just reiterates all the parking that is available in that area. I'm going to put up the master plan again, if I can grab that. Yes, if you look in the lower part, not the rendering above, but in the lower part, you can see the plan view of what the vision was for the master plan. It was actually to line School Street with buildings and hide that parking.
Alyssa, you've got to switch it. It didn't.
Okay.
You have to share a different screen, that's all.
Okay. So I have to say new share and then, okay. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, I was just commenting on the bottom plan view from the master plan and what they intended to do with those parking areas, which was line School Street with buildings, which in our proposal, we are, you will see, going to propose a building at the end right across from the municipal center. But again, just that sea of asphalt that we have along School Street, if we can utilize that, or somehow architecturally eliminate some of that, it would be to our great advantage, I think. Okay, so now I'm going to start. Let's see if I can grab the drawings. All right. So I'm actually going to start backwards. Can you all see this SK5 drawing?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm actually going to start not with the plans, but with our vision in these perspective renderings of what we are proposing. So in the bottom right drawing, you'll see Dr. Volpentessa's building, 155 Greenwood in the corner. And then we are proposing in addition to that building, a lower level, and then an addition above on the second floor where there's a partial first floor that exists now. We would put a second floor above and then come out even further with that glass enclosed area that you see. And the idea of that is really, as you're walking along Greenwood Avenue, to pull you in to the alleyway visually. We're not sure exactly what might go in there, possibly a restaurant, but definitely some active retail or commercial use on both corners is what we envision in order to activate this pedestrian alley. I mean, the last thing we want to do is build this alley and have it not be activated. So that's the idea of the small retail shops along the whole way, and then hopefully a very active retail or commercial use at either end. So as you're walking along, you know, we're just going to come along down the alley here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. And in the foreground, that dotted outline you see, that's actually the Wells Fargo profile. So this drawing is as if you're standing on Greenwood looking through the Wells Fargo building. Wishing that it wasn't there, but it is there. So, so as you come along, the next building you see right here with the masonry base is what we're calling Building B, and you will see on the plan, or I'll show you in a minute. But that is basically going to be commercial again on the first floor and 2 levels of residential on the upper floors. And that's what basically all these buildings are in the project. We have 5 buildings altogether. We're calling A, Dr. Volpentessa's building, B, the one that I'm describing now. C and D, as you go down, are mirrors of each other. They're basically exactly the same building. And then E is the last building towards the municipal center. And again, there are 3-story buildings and the first floor of commercial retail, and then 2 levels of residential above. And I'll go through the units and how many, as Peter said, we do have 16 units, but I'll go through each building and what is in them. But just to give you a visual, right here is the C and D in the middle, and then it's very hard to see E, and that's why I'm going to jump to the upper left. This is Building E, your view from the municipal center. So again, we have these small retail units on the bottom, and then 2 levels of residential above. And you can see architecturally, we're suggesting very simple roof lines, simple exterior finishes. Also on this page are some other images from other projects that we've collected. You know, possibly white clapboard or vertical board and batten, but we are open to discussions about color. We don't want this to look like it just got plopped there all in one instance. So we are open to changing the colors on the different buildings. But again, you know, the masonry, the red masonry speaks to the municipal center, obviously, and other locations in town. But, you know, we're thinking the forms are just going to be very simple architecturally. So let me now jump to this. Everyone's looking at SK1? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so again, just to go through, as if you're coming from Greenwood down to School Street, we have the existing building with the addition here, and then that glass enclosed addition coming out. Again, visually getting your view as you come down Greenwood, pulling you in. In between, we have courtyards in several locations. Little courtyards here, walkways, another courtyard here. The idea is connectivity throughout the whole site, so you can walk back and forth in between the buildings, you know, have some sitting areas, that sort of thing. Again, if there's a restaurant here, we're envisioning outdoor dining right here. Here we have the C&D buildings. Again, on this level, all retail, or we're calling flex commercial or retail. Because again, you know, we're not quite sure exactly what's going to be going in on the lower level. And then the parking back here, as Peter explained, the 16 spaces, access from School Street. This is a service bay in case we do have a restaurant on this lower level. That's how you would get the loading in and out from there. And I think that's it. I mean, one of the challenges, as Peter mentioned, of this whole project is to design for what we know we can do, but envision what could be someday, you know, as far as this other site goes. I mean, we would love to see a mirror over here of other buildings and what the master plan envisioned, but we know for now this is what it is. And so this pedestrian alley would come through, as Peter mentioned. We're thinking obviously a different material from a regular sidewalk. We're thinking stamped concrete in a terracotta color, something very pedestrian friendly. And we're showing some landscaping here, but we will be retaining a landscape architect, Abigail, and we have a meeting with her coming up shortly.
Alyssa, I just want to mention one thing about this page before you move on. Is
Sure.
One of the things that is important is that although we have B, B as in boy and E, that are relatively large in terms of the spaces that they offer, building C and D in the middle in terms of the commercial space is very small. They're 1145 square feet, and divide that in half, and you're talking, you know, 550 to 600 square feet in each of those units. The intention is for somebody to be able to open a retail space in that small 600 square foot. You know, with the type of vendor that currently is occupying the Chamber of Commerce space, or somebody who wants to do a small coffee or donut shop or something like that, that just requires a storefront, and that's about it. And that's something we don't have a lot of in the downtown. We think it opens up a new class of retail that's unique and interesting that will activate this space. Somebody can take either the 550 on one side or maybe both in one building, connected in the middle if they need to grow. So the intention is to be flexible, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yes, correct. All right, moving on. So this is the next level up. So right here is a link in between the existing building, which will have 2 residential units, and you'll see that on the next floor plan because of the grade elevations. They're actually at a similar level elevation wise, but they would be connected here, and there is a difference in elevation, so there would be a stair in here. There's a difference of about 5.5 feet between these two, but this is how the people that live in this unit would access it from the parking lot. They would come in, come up these stairs, go across, and then access 2 units in the existing building. So there's basically 4 units on this level, 2, 2, and 2 over here. And the smallest unit is about 715 feet. And I believe the largest one is about, to give you an idea, 1360 feet. So that's the range. And we're thinking they are either efficiencies or 1 bedroom. I don't think we're thinking any 2 bedrooms, correct, Peter? I mean, we haven't gotten really into the plans yet.
Well, the residential units in Building B are going to be on both the second and third floor. They're
Yeah,
going to be lofted units. So you'll have sort of your living space on the second floor and then a bedroom on the third floor. And there may be 2 bedrooms in those units, depending on how it lays out.
Right. So those have lofts in them, and you'll see that on the next level. As far as the other 3 buildings, it's basically the same footprint on the next level up, which now we're on the 3rd floor. So you can see how they have the lofts in here. And this could be a common area for the residents to share here. And then the rest of the buildings, as I said, pretty much have the same footprint on this upper level. So I think that's the brief overview. I
You
mean,
want to show the massing?
yes, thank you. Back to the massing, which I decided to do last. Here we are. Okay. So upper right shows Dr. Volpentes's building on Greenwood. And here you can see the addition on the 1st floor and then the addition in the back here over this 1-story part that's there now. This is the B building with the lofts in because we didn't want this building to just be this shorter building in the middle of the other 2. So they all kind of gradually step down, and, you know, you can see the massing that it, you know, just kind of steps along rather than have a gap here. So the challenge was, you know, what do we do with these upper levels here? But that's how we resolved it, was with the lofts. Down here is that possible outdoor eating area. And then here's where you have the little incubator retail shops here. Of course, there'd be windows everywhere. I mean, you're just seeing this as a massing model. And then this is a stair in between to get access to these units, the C&D units. And then this E facing the municipal center, which is down in your lower left, you can see we've carved out some balcony areas possibly, or just, you know, some stepping volumes up here to give some interest. But again, the roof lines are really pretty simple. Nothing crazy going on, but I mean, you can really get a sense of what this will look like as you're walking down the alley here. Just, you know, imagine a scale figure coming down, and just, you know, it's exciting to see that between the civic center of town and the active retail. I think it was last night I was driving down Greenwood Avenue and there was something going on the municipal center lawn. And, you know, I thought how great this would be and there were actually a lot of people out. It was a nice night, people walking their dogs and everything. And rather than just cutting through that parking lot, you know, just the thought of coming here, grabbing some ice cream or something along the way and just going down and ending up at Food Truck Friday or something on the municipal center lawn is just, you know, really would be amazing. So down at the bottom left, you're seeing the parking lot and the overhang of C&D, because those units had to come out a little and we have wound up with a colonnade under there, which was kind of a nice result of just needing that square footage on the upper level. And then that little kind of garage looking thing is again the, you know, the bay or the loading area for whatever would be in that retail, hopefully a restaurant, because I think that would be a great use there. And I think that's it. Can you think of anything, Peter, for the brief version?
That's it. You know, we've given you sort of the highlight overview, and hopefully this is the first time you're seeing it. We'd love any initial comments and questions you have, which we can then take as we go and meet with the engineers and refine plans for the public hearing.
This is Pat. I do have a question. The proposed pedestrian alley that you show, that's without the additional 8 feet that you're hoping to get from Wells Fargo?
If you look at the plan that Alyssa's showing right now, the
Right.
pedestrian alley is 16 feet wide. There is a dash dotted line right down the middle of it. That's the
I
property
see.
line. So we're giving 8 feet. And hopefully when they develop it, they'll give 8 feet more. And that
All right.
you want to make them do it to make it 16 total. If they never develop, we'll still have 8 feet on our side, but it won't make a difference because the fire trucks can just drive right in the back of Wells Fargo's parking lot.
Correct. Yeah,
to access
exactly.
those buildings. So, it'll look a little odd, but at least it won't be out of place.
And are any of the buildings going to have elevators?
None.
No, they will not. They don't
Okay.
need to. Yep.
Okay.
Peter, if I may.
Yes, I can't see who's talking.
Oh, it's me, Rob.
Oh, hi, Rob.
Has anybody involved in the project spoke to Wells Fargo? I don't even know if Wells Fargo owns that or leases it, but
So the property is owned by Fairfield Properties, Inc., which is a corporate entity that has a address in Stamford. And if you look at the Google Street View, there's an old stone granite facade that says Union Trust Company. And obviously that's the predecessor of what's Wells Fargo's is today. So it's owned by a subsidiary of Wells Fargo. We have made no effort to contact them, but I know that several people, including Beth Cavagna and Robert Orr, have made efforts to contact Wells Fargo. What we're hoping is that we can get this plan to them in some way and they start to say, wow, what a great idea. Maybe we should hire the same people to do the same thing for us. But whatever they do is going to be behind us by months or a year, particularly with their bureaucracy. And they may never do anything. You just don't know with a bank.
Beth, I got a question.
I'm listening.
There are no sidewalks from the library up to beyond the flea. Who picks up the cost for the sidewalks running the length of the street?
Believe it or not, there are sidewalks now.
Yeah.
Oh.
From there, they were recently put in about 2 years ago with one of our sidewalk grants, and they also include decorative lighting.
Oh,
Right. Right.
oh, this is a really good start.
Yeah, this is extremely exciting. I love the plan. I loved it from the first time I saw it on the in the TOD. Not related to the development or anything, but is there any way to incentivize small businesses in those spaces versus, Starbucks and Urban Outfitters type businesses that tend to come into, developments like this?
I would love to see a bakery in one of these places.
I recuse
ideas. One of the things that's interesting is the very small retail space is going to end up being really cheap because rents in downtown Bethel really aren't that high in the first place, and then you couple that with having a small space, the square foot price is going to be quite low. And I think that's how we'll end up with those incentives. Now, there are tax benefits on the local tax level from mixed-use developments that we'll be taking advantage of as well. That will hopefully make that all work together. We want this filled, and so I can't commit the developer to any kind of
understood
program, but we want it filled, and he'll make whatever deals he has to make to get people in there. And the other thing we hope is that somebody comes in with a 500 square foot space and does really well, and then goes and takes a 1,500 square foot space somewhere else in Bethel and lets somebody else step in. That's why Alyssa used the word incubator, because we think there's opportunities for businesses to grow and stay in downtown Bethel.
That's great. Any other comments from commissioners?
I have one.
Yes, Bob.
The walkway you're proposing, the 8 feet on this project, does it go right to the property line?
Yes. It goes right to the property line on Greenwood Avenue and School Street, and then goes right to the property line between us and Wells Fargo.
Okay. And a suggestion on using the municipal parking for winter parking and stuff would be that if you go before the Board of Selectmen, you propose assigned areas in those parking lots that would be winter parking, because they still have to be plowed when there's snow.
That's something,
What we would like to ask you to do, and it doesn't have to be as part of our public hearing, you can do it just at any meeting, is to adopt a resolution to send to the Board of Selectmen asking them to take that step, to say, please designate the library and the municipal center for overnight winter parking, and add that as a condition.
But my point is like, say the municipal center parking lot in the back, the overnight winter parking would be against the fence, say, between there and the manufacturing plant, so that the main part of the parking lot could be plowed without, if you just go in and park in any parking space, and then the guy comes down and tries to plow the parking lot, it's not going to work.
Right.
there are many different ways to approach the Board of Selectmen on this. You can do it by permit. You could, and signage will be very helpful in creating these type of areas. And I believe that they're needed, not just because this development has come in. We've been approached by several property owners along Greenwood Avenue that have recently been ticketed because of changes in parking associated with the old train station. They don't allow overnight parking there now. So it is a problem throughout Greenwood Avenue in the downtown area.
All right, any other comments?
I do. So we talked about talking to the first selectman's office about opening up municipal center and the library. What about the old railroad station? Shouldn't we be consistent in saying if it's allowed, it's allowed? Did I miss that?
I think the old railroad station should be included.
Right, so do I.
Good point, John.
Okay. So I think that if the commission's done, that somebody needs to make a motion. We need to schedule a public hearing for the 27th on this, right?
Correct. Yes, if someone would make a motion for the site plan special permit for parking discussion for the public hearing.
So I guess I'll make a motion for I'm sorry. I'd like to make a motion for Steve DeMarco, 155 Greenwood Avenue, for a site plan special permit for a parking reduction, and schedule it for October 27th and send it out to all appropriate town agencies for review.
Second.
Thank you, Bobby.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. All right.
Thanks very much.
Next on our agenda, Shelley Woods, LLC, modification revision to existing approval, 91 Wooster Street. And Attorney Marcus, you're here.
I'm here. Good evening. This application is actually to go back to the original plan for the house that exists on the site before the development of the additional housing pursuant to the site plan. Originally, the plan was to take the existing house and convert the 3 units that were in it, and there were a bunch of different, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. And then it was thought that we could actually provide additional housing if we, instead of converting what was there, did a more significant overhaul of the building. And we came back and got the site plan and special permit amended to allow 6 units, 6 1-bedroom units in the front house. That seemed like a great idea at the time until the project actually got moving, and the construction revealed that the conditions inside the structure won't allow the conversion to 6 units. So we're now faced with 2 choices. Either we can knock the house down and come back with a different site plan with a different building that will allow us to build the 6 units that are currently approved in that structure. Or we can do what seems to make more sense, which is to go back to the original plan. We'll build out the 3 units that were originally in that structure and amend the affordable housing plan back to the 3-unit configuration. So that's it. I mean, what looked like a great idea is to say just couldn't be done because of the condition of the structure. And it's that simple. I won't bore you with any more details.
Okay. All right. Comments from commissioners, please.
But if all they can build is 3, then all they can build is 3. I don't know what else that you would want us to say. I assume that because of the building itself, the 6 is impossible. So the 3 is what it is. So how many units did that make in total now, Neil?
I have to go look at my file. Beth, do you have that handy?
No, I don't, Neil. You missed the show. I don't have access to my server.
How many are we now approved for? That's a good question. I haven't pulled out my site plan in a
I
while.
see that Mr. Draper's on the Zoom call. Maybe.
Tim, are you there? Tune in.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there.
Yeah.
There's 8 in the new building, 1 in the cottage, and then there would be 2 3-bedrooms in the house and 1 efficiency in the basement.
So that's what, 13 in all?
8,
1 and
9,
10, 11, 12.
12 all total.
12 also. Okay, sorry.
And that's what the original approval was.
Correct. Unfortunately, the structure of the building and its age won't let us do what we wanted to do.
Gotcha.
So we got into it a bit more and can see what the framing was.
All right.
Beth, the question for you is this as simple as us just approving, the affordable housing plan tonight, or do we have to have any more to go back to a different total plan?
Yeah, Bob, I was going to bring up suggestion that I'd like to refer this out to Land Use Council only because we've had so many changes on this and we just want to make sure we get it right the next time. How do commission members feel about that?
Sending what out to?
All the changes now, because we've had so many changes on the property. I'd like to send it out to the Land Use Council to get a look at it. And so we know exactly what we're working with and that we get our decision right the next time we do it.
The changes in the affordability plan or the changes in the overall site plan?
The overall site plan and the affordability plan.
Yeah. Hey, Pat, if I could just interrupt, because I'm not opposed to having Chuck look at it, but I really don't want to waste his time either. We're not making any changes to the site plan. The site plan is what you've approved. What we're really doing is just changing the configuration of the interior of the building, which was originally approved for 3. We went to 6 and we went back to 3, but the site plan is not going to change.
But as you said, you'll probably go back to the same numbers, but you had 2 choices, knocking down the house or simply going back to the original plan. So I would like Chuck to take a look at this and provide some advice to us as we move this forward.
Can I chime in, Pat?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Neil, the affordable thing. So the new 8 units plus the cottage, what units are affordable now below market rate? And how does going from 6 units, did you rent all the new ones at full market and you were going to assume the affordable were going to be in the new development?
Not at all. No. Basically, there's a 30% set aside of 12 units originally. So it's 4. And then when we went when we added to 15, your 30% set aside goes to
5.
Yeah.
Right. What I
now-
mean is anything that's rented now, are they affordable yet? Or you were gonna do all the affordable in the building that hasn't been developed yet?
Okay, again, Tim's on the line here. He's got the numbers. Tim, I don't have track of your current rental schedule. How many units are currently rented affordable?
You have to give me a second. I think they're all are.
Yeah, most of my. new
All
ones.
8 units?
No,
Wouldn't be correct.
no, it's required.
So you did the affordable already in the new construction, right?
Yes,
My suggestion to the commission is, let's get the correct amount of units that are affordable now. What I did.
Well, give me a minute and I'll let you know. I'm just
Okay,
looking at now to
excuse me.
find out which ones they are, that's all.
Excuse me. There's one thing that in talking about all these affordables and stuff, we have to go back now because the ratio was increased when he went to 15 units. So now we're going back down to
All
12.
right, we're gonna bring it down.
So now on the second modification, again, I think I need to talk to Chuck. I think, Pat, your suggestion may be a good idea, only because we get this straight. Because what he did, went to 6 one-bedrooms in the house.
correct.
Now there's going to be 2 3-bedrooms, 1 studio, whatever we have going on. So we have to look at all those numbers in relation to the set aside for the affordability, because if there's an opportunity to pick up a 3-bedroom, the town may want a 3-bedroom and give up one of the other 2 that are located in the new building. Now, the other part to this that I just want to make clear to everybody, and I don't think, Neil, that you're aware of this, is that when it got to the critical point where the house became an issue and Tim didn't know what he was going to do and he was going to do one thing and go to the other, what we did was we tried to work with Tim and create the project and made it a phase 1 and a phase 2. So that allowed him under the phase 1 to get all his COs so he could get those units rented and not sitting on a project that he can't get a CO for. So now we consider this a phase 2, but it's all still part of an 830G, not a special permit.
That's correct. The numbers are across the board on the 12 or 15.
We just got to figure out the mathematical thing, and I think the commission would be more comfortable, and it'd be easier for me because I have a lot on my plate to have Chuck look at this for me and deal with the numbers because he's better than I am. With the help of our administrator.
You know what, Beth, you know I'm very fond of Chuck, but he's a lawyer. He's not an accountant. He's no good with numbers.
No, he's very good.
Hey, Beth, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
We just checked. 3 of the 2 bedrooms are under the affordable rate now. Sorry, I'm in the process of moving my office the last 2 days, so I didn't have that at hand.
Okay, so 3 of the 2 bedrooms are affordable. And you know what, Tim, I'll just check. I will also check with Mark Nolan.
Sure.
And Mark will help us figure out the numbers and how they're going to work.
Yep, that's fine with
Okay.
me.
All right.
But
Okay.
Can I say one thing? I have a great solution. I think we all agree the need for affordable housing downtown that close to the railroad. So if you knock the building down, you could build a beautiful building and get your 6 units and everybody wins.
Comes down to price.
That's another modification. Come on, we're on our
Come on,
third.
John, you're making more work for everybody, including Beth.
Well, you know, attorneys, they bill by the hour.
So I'd like to note for the record that I actually joined your meeting early on. I watched Mike Mizuko, I watched Peter Olson. So just for the record.
Thank you, Bill.
Intently, I saw that.
Okay, so I will get a response from Chuck for our next meeting.
That'd be perfect. By
Thank
the
you
way,
so
your
much,
next
Beth.
meeting is next week.
No, it won't be next week.
Right, regular
Special
meeting.
Yeah, our next regular meeting.
Regular meeting. in
Do
October.
you need a motion or consensus for that, Beth?
No, I know what I have to do. Just table it until October, the next meeting, I think it's the 14th. Table the item.
Okay, excellent. All right, moving on. Beth, Planning and Zoning Department report. You have Arnhold Foundation Sunset Hill discussion.
Yes. The way we left it at the last meeting was that we had a discussion on the general discussion that we had when this all started many years ago. I did advise Attorney Neal to go to the Zoom meeting, listen to the Zoom meeting. We've had several conversations since then. We've talked about several different things. I did not get out there today, Neil, to see the area that you were mentioning about. I was out there the other day to take some pictures of the area we have originally talked about. The commission's aware of it. Everything's in the drive. So if you want to go over it a little bit with them before they.
Yeah, let me go back just very briefly where we started, because I started on this project a long time ago when Henry Arnhold was still alive. And he's the one who said he'd like me to work on getting his property set aside for open space. And originally he was going to deal with the Bethel Land Trust. And then subsequent meetings started with Steve Palmer actually, and with Matt Knickerbocker, we agreed that the maintenance and the oversight of the property as open space, given the fact that it's contiguous to Huntington Park, would mitigate towards making a donation to the state of Connecticut to be a part of Huntington. And so that's the concept that we came up with. Henry was very clear, very clear. His concepts were clear. His specific instructions were not quite as clear. But his concept was, he said, and by the way, just to go back, the property has been in the foundation, the Arnhold Foundation, for years. Henry and Sissy had a life use of the property, and of course the goal was ultimately that the foundation would give the bulk of it away as he planned. So the foundation is trying to execute his plan, and actually it's interesting, they rely on me to tell them what it was, because Henry didn't write it down. He spoke to me, he spoke to Dinas Fabricus, and he spoke to Matt, and he spoke to Steve early on. But anyway, his concept was his house would get sold. Actually, I got to take that back. His real hope was one of his grandchildren would take over the whole property, and then the open space would be given when they finished the use of the property. But his grandchildren all live up in Roxbury, which is a great loss to Bethel and a great find for the town of Roxbury. But anyway, so he said, well, obviously the house will get sold. The cottage and the barn that Pete and Sherry Pete Holmgren and Sherry had used for so many years, when they worked for Henry, would go to them. The balance of the property, he said, I want to create 2 building lots along Sunset Hill and give the rest of it away. And so we went out with the property was mapped. The town did the mapping years ago. Dinas Fabricus was sent out to do deep holes and perk tests to figure out how we could create building lots. And it was my idea for Dinas. I said, while you're there, Dinas, test Aunt Patty's Lane, because quite honestly, I was of the mind that Sunset Hill might be the entrance into the park. And that's what Steve Palmer wanted. He wanted an entrance on Sunset Hill into Huntington. Well, quite honestly, the state doesn't want that. The state doesn't. They're very happy to take the property, but the state looks at new entrances as a liability, because as the park ranger said, it's 7 o'clock, every night I have to now check another parking lot and figure out the 2 cars that are still there, where those people are in the park who aren't supposed to be there. So he said, we don't want additional entrances. So at that point, I was asked to try to market 2 sales of building lots. And you got to understand that the other thing Henry had in mind was to raise a certain amount of money to go back into his foundation, because the foundation gives away a lot of money every year. It's huge. But and the town of Bethel still, I understand, gets some money in the land trust. And obviously years ago, Henry was extraordinarily charitable to the library, which is another story that I'll share with you another night when it's not as late. But So when it came to trying to market the property, I spoke to people who I thought might be interested in building lots, and we determined that there was an interest in 6 acres on Aunt Patty's first. And that would be one of the first cut that we'd envisioned was 2 lots, the balance is open space. So 6 acres was actually larger than the building lot that we anticipated, but the offer was twice the amount of a single building lot. So as long as the foundation didn't have to go through the effort of trying to subdivide, which they don't want to do, we were happy to sell 1 unsubdivided first cut for 6 acres on Aunt Patty's Lane. And that money goes back, as I say, into the foundation. Then we had the second sale, which the foundation wanted. So I met with another builder, local developer, who was interested in a lot. And I was originally trying to talk about a 2 or 3 acre lot along Sunset Hill at the far northern corner of the property, beyond the 2 houses that exist on Sunset Hill in the middle of a horseshoe. And as we talked about the site, he said, well, how about if I just buy everything along Sunset Hill and I'll worry about whether it'll ever be subdivided or I'm going to use it for my own purposes, prospectively for his own house. That, of course, I told him that he then inherits the tennis court, which we've all used for these years as part of what we call the Sunset Hill Tennis Club. But interestingly enough, he's interested in allowing that use to continue as long as we want to try to keep it going, which is nice. So we ended up with creating these 2 divisions. And the map that I submitted to Beth shows the 6 acre parcel down in Aunt Patty's Lane and the horseshoe of about almost 7 acres along Sunset Hill. It's a horseshoe because the property has to be connected in the middle, because if we don't have a connection, then we have a subdivision. We have to have 2 parcels as a first cut. The open space parcel in the interior is allowed to go to open space. It can't be done. Actually, once we do this configuration and record this map, that is effectively the declaration of the open space permanently.
Excuse
But
me,
that's
Dave,
gonna go-
could you bring up the Arnhold donation maps so they know what Neil?
I was about to ask that question myself.
Thank you.
This item, yes, Beth?
Yes.
Okay, so on David's screen that he's brought up, in the lower right-hand corner is a checked area, which is a 6 acre. When I say 6, I've rounded it. It's approximately 6 acres, and that is a cut. And the second cut is a checkered area along the Sunset Hill. And it is 1 parcel because it's connected here. But quite honestly, if the property is ever cut into 2 parcels, this property in between will either go to the state as part of Huntington or go to these owners along here, because the strip in between the 2 parcels is literally a useless piece. It has no value to either side of the property. But so what we do is we then create in the center a open space parcel of just shy of 55 acres. That gets attached to the open space behind the existing house, cottage, and barn. And the total is approximately 80 acres, just shy of 80 acres, that will go to the state of Connecticut to be a part of Huntington Park. Beth and I have had a lot of discussions again about this access to Huntington Park from Bethel. And I'm all in favor of it. And we have retained a section along Aunt Patty's Lane. It's approximately 200 feet long of frontage. On the map that you're looking at, the corner house on Aunt Patty's Lane on
Could you go over,
the,
excuse me, Neil, could you go over to Aunt Patty's Lane so everybody can see it? Can everybody see it? Maybe it's just me because I'm a host.
you want to blow that up, David, and set
Bring
a
it
little bit?
over.
Okay. Yeah, when you're on Aunt Patty's Lane, actually, if you look at the top of the map, it says property now or formerly of Kevin Senny, who doesn't live there anymore. But as you scroll down on that, you'll see lawn encroachment detail 1. And there's a small, approximately 10-foot wide strip of the former Senny property that's on the Arnhold tract. So this morning, as I told Beth I would do, I was going to take another look out there. And I started basically at that corner, and I paced off roughly about 200 feet up Aunt Patty's Lane. What you have here is there's a house number 44 Aunt Patty's Lane where this driveway cut is shown. And there's a mailbox for number 44 right about, maybe 10 feet south of that driveway. So I took a look at what we have characterized as a steep portion of the property, but in reality, it's not very steep at all. There's some grade as you leave Aunt Patty's Lane and you go back into the site about 150 feet or so, you start to hit some rock outcroppings. But if in fact the state of Connecticut wished to create a parking lot, they could do it on this tract with minimal grading. They'd have to obviously get rid of some boulders, but they'd get rid of some trees and stumps. But the grade actually, if you're not looking for a flat parking area, if you're looking to park with a gentle slope, the slope goes basically from the south, let's see, there would be the southeast towards the, I would say, yeah, from the south to the north more generally in that direction. But the state could use it if they wanted to. I'm not sure they ever will. But it affords, this configuration still affords the town of Bethel the opportunity to petition the state to create parking there at some time in the future. And quite honestly, I don't think that would be something that would go over lightly with the neighbors on Aunt Patty's Lane, because Aunt Patty's Lane is a pretty private residential road. And again, depending on what type of parking you'd be talking about, if it's small, maybe nobody would care. But I would anticipate that there are people on Aunt Patty's Lane who might not be happy with the idea that we'd be talking about a major entrance of any type into the park. On the other hand, as I told Beth today, people might do what I do, which is just to park along the side of Aunt Patty's Lane, as I did today, got out of my car and took a hike up in the woods for a while to go look at what I wanted to find. But I'm not sure that would interfere with anybody. I mean, at the moment, once you get past this point, until you get into the park, you really only have 2 residences on the opposite side of the street. And similarly, I mean, if you were to try to enter the property on Sunset, you would be parking cars along Sunset, which, might be somewhat of a controversy too, because there are already parking lots into the park further up Sunset once you cross into Reading. So that's our plan. What I've asked Beth to do is to role as CEO, to sign off as the sign off on the first cut plan. If that occurs, what will happen quickly is there'll be a sale on Aunt Patty's Lane. There'll be a sale on Sunset Hill, and we will try to sit down quickly with the state of Connecticut to wrap up an open space donation for the balance of the property. That's what the foundation would like to do. They'd like to get this thing wrapped up soon. It's taken a long time, a lot of mitigating factors that have occurred, but that's where we are. So in terms of what we're asking for is, actually, we're not asking for the commission to take any formal action at all, but we're merely asking Beth to sign off on the map. I understand that we'd like the commission to feel comfortable with what the plan is. The overview, what we're doing here by getting this central core of property to the state of Connecticut, there's a long-term open space corridor plan, which I recall Steve pulling up on maps. I don't think he pulled up on a computer, it was so long ago, but he pulled out all these maps, and he's, eventually there's an open space corridor from Bethel through Reading to the Norwalk River. And this attaches to that corridor. And he was very excited about it years ago, and we'd like to get it done. So that's where we are. I'm happy to answer any questions, though I may have been too long-winded already.
I have a question. Can I talk, Pat?
Yes, of course.
Neil,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you for the history lesson, because I was on the commission way back then, and I personally knew Mr. Arnold for many years, and you were close on the history. When we convinced the commission, and I believe I would have a motion to spend $30,000 of open space money, which back then was a lot of money.
Yep.
You sold it as, we only want the cottage cut off, the main house, and we want to add maybe 2 lots on Sunset, because those are the most desirable lots. I remember my vision was having access to open space on Aunt Patty's, usable access on Aunt Patty's for passive recreation, right? That's why we want open space. We want to be able to get to it, not just have the birds fly into the trees. And back when I either made a motion or second that motion to spend a lot of money, my vision and Mr. Arnold's vision was to have access up there, and the only thing he wanted to return is to have an easy pass to get 2 lots to go into his foundation over on Sunset. That was my memory. That was way back then. That's what I got. So what do you say about that?
I don't disagree with you, but it's interesting. It's interesting.
It is very interesting.
Normally, we talk about maximizing a return to people because you say, well, they want to get top dollar for their money, for their property. Henry, of course,
He didn't have that problem.
no, this is money going into a foundation. But interestingly enough, he had given me.
But I'm sorry to interrupt, but he also wanted to do the right thing for Bethel.
Oh yes, and they still do. I mean, there's no question that his grandson, who's charged with administering the estate, he says to me, Neil, we will do what Henry wanted. He said, if you can put this together. But on the other hand, Henry had this vision of these 2 building lots being worth a lot more money. And I do know Henry and I would disagree on values, on land values. And I would say, Henry, you got too many of your friends in Greenwich that you're referring to or whatever. It is Bethel after all. And, the values were different. But the sale of the configuration here results in a number that Henry actually hoped would go back into the foundation. When I say the sale of these 2, you got to combine that with the sale of his house, which was at a much lower price than he ever envisioned. But the market's different and things are different. But this number that we're going to end up with this configuration is right on, except the difference is that somebody in the future could subdivide. They could do that. And Henry never went that far down the path. He was selling 2 lots.
I beg to differ. When this all came in front of the commission years ago, it was never a mathematical figure that was going to work for Mr. Arnold to do this for the town. It was all about preserving the space that he loved for many years. It wasn't about we're trying to get to 400,000 or whatever the number you're thinking. His dying wish was to keep it as open space and make it accessible to the people of Bethel.
Yeah. Hey, John, by the way, I got to tell you, I argued with Henry. I said, Henry, why are you bothering with creating 2 lots? I said, quite honestly, that is more problematic. And then, of course, when I told him that we had to hire basically a soil scientist to go out and flag wetlands, which we did, and we had to hire Dynas to do perks and deeps to determine whether he thought all that was a waste of money. And it was, because he's not a developer. But interestingly enough, he had this concept, and I could never shake him on the 2 lots. But that was something that I'm not sure why, but it all had to do with his long-term plan, and it was in his head, and that's what he did. Now, granted that the numbers were different today than what he actually envisioned 10 years ago when he probably started this.
I'm only one commissioner, but I would actually recommend that that Beth doesn't sign those until we find a happy medium up on Aunt Patty's, because I think that we need to make some parking area for people to have access to that open space. And I don't think that as a commission that tries to plan for Bethel, that we should park on the side of the road like you recommended. I almost think that's offensive. We've got to find a plan on Aunt Patty's where we could put a gravel pad, even if the state doesn't want it right now. But I think as a town, we need to plan the right way to have access and some off-street parking for the vision Mr. Arnold had that you're representing his foundation.
Well, John, let me flesh that out for a second. I mean, are you suggesting, for example, that the open space go partly to the town of Bethel and partly to Huntington, so that?
No, not at all. But the people. Well, not at all. But the people of Bethel would actually benefit from the access on Aunt Patty's. That's what I mean. I think it should go to the state and be part of the big park, but we should make it accessible for our Bethel residents on Aunt Patty's because it's such a big parcel.
Hey, John, I'll do what you're suggesting. Seriously, I'm charged with setting up the dialogue with the state to work out the terms of the grant. Now, when I say terms of the grant are, we want it in perpetuity for open space, for passive recreational. Horses will be fine, but we don't want motocross in there. I mean, we want a sign erected recognizing the donor, that stuff, the details. I can engage Beth or Matt, if it should be from the first selectman, in discussions with the DEP, where you can make the pitch that we've already been turned down on. I mean, we were told we don't want more of a parking area, but I'm certain you can do that. I mean, that we can do, because quite honestly, I agree with you. I think that's a great access into the park. It is.
Okay, I don't even think you need, it sounds like you want to get a map signed, right? I don't think you need to go through all of that. I just think we all need to be agreeable upon a location on Aunt Patty's that would fit a gravel pad to park 6 to 10 cars and have a gate. It doesn't have to be constructed right now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
what
what you have.
I think as the commission that plans Bethel is we have a suitable piece of land that if the state ever changed their mind in 10 years, could say, that's the spot. And they could say the commission in 2020 thought in the future and said, I can't believe they did it, but here it is, and now we just need to construct it. That's the important part.
You've got it. You go out and look at that site, you'll find that it actually is a perfectly fine parking area.
Okay, can I speak for a minute?
Good.
Yes, Beth.
Okay, a couple of things in just putting the open space part aside. And just when I was looking at it after, Neil and I've talked many times about this. You're looking at you have 6 acres here, okay? It's a 2-acre zone, just using boxes and not getting into it. You're talking about the possibility of 3 lots being here at some days, sometime, okay? So when you're looking at Aunt Patty's Lane, I have to tell you, when I was up there, I was out there and Sandy Gill, who's one of the property owners there, was saying, oh my God, you got to do something. People are just coming in and back into my driveway. Tim Draper was telling me how the garbage truck went into his driveway and did all this nonsense and everything. So another reason I think that the town has to look at, the easy part is to, you have residential development. Can you see my cursor? Is my cursor there?
Yeah, it's there.
I'm on or off or whatever.
Yeah,
So
it's
when
there.
you look down here, you have all residential development. But guess what, guys? When it's going to get to the point where you're going to have to make some type of, you're going to have to work with somebody, okay? Whether it be the state or the developer, to get some kind of little turnaround so you can at least get cars and trucks turned around at the end of this long dead end road. So when you go to the actual property line, whoa, where are we going? So when you go up to the property line, you know, the property line of the town road abuts directly to Huntington, okay? Now there is a slope here and there's ledge and all this stuff here. But I go back to what I said before, there was a woodlot there. When you're talking about using some of now you guys aren't familiar with this as much as inland wetlands, because the Inland Wetlands Commission have been up there several times for things, but there are some genuinely distinctive good paths that are accessible through here. It's a nice loop going down over here around. You have, I don't know if it's Wolf Pits Brook or not, but you have the brook area here. You come back up. Yes, it's a little steep coming back up, but this is the perfect way to get in. And I can't contradict whatever Neil is saying as far as this area here, but once you get up in here, I did review our topo and our maps that we had presented. It's heavily vegetated here. You can't walk up in here. The paths, I believe, start closer down around where the brook is here, and it's just a more difficult area to traverse by foot.
Beth, just so you know, they're not able to see your cursor and follow along with where
Okay,
you're pointing on the map.
Well, I'm telling a good story, I guess.
But Beth, if
Anyway,
Yep.
so if I could just finish, Neil, and then
good.
go. So I mean, if you could swap out and make your your 6-acre piece adjacent to the residential area that has the encroachment to begin with, and do it in a way that you get the 6 acres, or do it in the way that you get the development that you want. But I think the area is the best for the town as far as, because there's various things. Maybe we'll get a parking lot in there, but eventually I think we're going to need like a half cul-de-sac or something at the end of Aunt Patty's for turnaround. And I also think that, whether we get parking or not, it goes to the state of Connecticut. It gets you out of your hands, Neil, and let us deal with the state of Connecticut, which is, if it's during my tenure here, 20 years from now or 30 years now. It just gives us the opportunity to straighten out a couple of factors and an opportunity to enjoy the open space. That's all.
If I could just, if you actually, because I've walked to the end of Aunt Patty's and down into Huntington.
That's steep down there.
That is a tough hike.
I'm impressed. I'm very impressed.
The better entrance is where we placed it, because the best hiking is really to come in and actually follow the brook that transects this property here. You follow the Wolf Pit Brook all the way down.
To get into Huntington.
To get into Huntington, yeah. So
I'm not talking about getting into Huntington.
If you come into this property, the better entrance is where we've actually placed it. And we didn't do that accidentally, because we had some discussion as to, if the town really does want a parking lot, it really should be up there. A parking lot at the end of Aunt Patty's Lane is tough. The grades are terrible.
No, the grades are very tough there. You know what I've said. I've said it along. Where it's flat. You say a parking lot, or and I don't think that it would be appropriate as far as talking to the ranger as far as what's good and what isn't, because like I'm saying, maybe nothing ever happens, but at least you have a 40-foot town right away there. People can park there, walk in, and have a nice little hike and come back out. But the problem is they can't turn around. Nobody
Yep.
can turn around up there. So
That's the
the
problem.
biggest
You're right.
issue. We've got to get a turnaround at the end of the property where it hooks into Huntington. And I think giving us the opportunity to work with the state on that is one way. Parking lot, it freaks out the state. I absolutely agree with you. But again, the town of Bethel has negotiated with the state in other areas. We're in a process of another project now where
Yep.
I'm sure we can work out some kind. My dream is for them to work out an agreement. Town will maintain, town will do this, town will do that, make it a summer entrance, and that's a vision, okay? I'm
Yeah.
talking as a planner, and I do believe that some of the comments, I just think that it's something we don't want to, I don't know. I don't have an answer.
Neil?
Yeah.
Bob Leonard here.
Hey, Bob,
I
how you
mean,
doing?
Once that piece of property where you want to subdivide it and the one on Aunt Patty's Lane, once that's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
And we don't have any opportunity to, we at least try to maintain that so that we can go forward at some future date. That's my point. And I think we need to at least leave the door open so we could get into that property. We're not talking about going the other way into Huntington Park, but at least have people use this piece of property and enjoy it the way they want. We're not trying to take money out of the the charity. We're just trying to make the best possible thing that can happen out of this piece of property, and that was Mr. Arnold's desire.
Yeah, again, when we were approached to buy property on Aunt Patty's, one of the things that we insisted on was that we maintain access on Aunt Patty's Lane into the property. Because actually, believe it or not, the offer to purchase was all the property along Aunt Patty's Lane, but we didn't do that. So, but the buyer has his interest in being essentially surrounded by Huntington Park, which he is. Once we make our donation, and he's surrounded on all sides by Huntington Park. So I'm gonna have a tough time. Matter of fact, I'm not sure I can reconfigure this the way we are now, but I can do what Beth has suggested. We can work with the town in approaching the state. And one thing we could do is we could allow a widening strip along here, along Aunt Patty's Lane, or actually set aside a dedicated area for a turnaround. So you come up Aunt Patty's Lane and turn around and go back out. I mean, that we could do. I mean, but that's really working with the state as to that configuration. I don't know how the state would feel about a turnaround there.
No, that would be between us and the state, and I'm confident that we could work something out. I've worked with them for many, many years.
Yeah. But before I actually do the deed, Beth, to the state,
yeah,
we should have those discussions. Because if the deed to the state is taking out a piece for road, I mean, we do that all the time. We do road widening pieces, but this will be to create the turnaround. I agree with you. I mean, I think, and by the way, I think the people out of Patty's Lane, as you said, will be happy to have a way to get out of there. Right now, you can't. You got to go into somebody's driveway.
I mean, it's an opportunity for the town to make improvements to that road that they should have made for years.
I would work with you on that. I mean, and I think we could.
What I'm saying is, Neil, I'm looking at it from a planner's point of view, and you got all your residential down here. Just increase your residential there. Do something, like I said. Now, maybe the commission would be agreeable to have you look at this. Obviously, we've worked with Zach Rapp. The commission would be very willing, I think, to pay for any, working the lines on there to make it so it's more viable for the town and still maintain what the buyer is looking for.
Hey, Beth.
I don't know how the commission feels about that.
I'm not sure what you want me to do at this point.
Beth?
Yes.
I've been listening to all this, and I have a comment on, and I may be wrong, but it sort of sounds like the gentleman who owned the property had a particular vision, and it sounds like those that are in control of it now have a different vision.
I don't know.
Maybe it's a land grab. I don't know.
But that's not us, you know, that's not for us to really get involved with. You know, I'm just again, like I'm saying, I'm just trying to look out for, you know, Neil knows how I feel.
Yeah.
Property's near and dear, had a vision, and Steve did too. I mean, you know, he spoke about that. Steve was always about, he wanted to get something on Sunset Hill. You know, we offered, well, if we could give us a little parking area, we would do something named something after his daughter, who some of us knew that passed. And the focus has always been on Sunset Hill. And I just always assume that, you know, the woodlot, I know that particular area, that would be the perfect entrance someday, somewheres to get in there. But also at the same time, like I said, after talking to the neighbors and just seeing how this configuration is, all the residential should be together, come up, and, you know, we'll have to just work with the state and get our troops in line and everything and say, hey, look, we need at least a cul-de-sac up there. A little half cul-de-sac, so cars can turn around and garbage trucks can.
What is the opposition to flip-flopping those two pieces of property on Aunt Patty's Lane?
Oh, give them property. I don't, you know.
Oh,
You mean sliding the 6 acres up here?
Yes.
Yeah. Adjacent to whatever it is, sign.
Yeah.
Because the end of the road ends at.
You know why? Because the people that are going to end up buying this lot here don't want to be adjacent to a parking lot down here.
But we're not saying it's a parking lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem.
We're saying there's,
the way the property lays out, that if you ever want to put a parking lot in here, it's right there because it's less obtrusive to them. So, you know, that's why we configured it this way, because that's what they want to buy. But you know, Beth, you want to try to get a hold of Zach Rapp and ask him to join you and me and whoever else you want out here to determine first, once and for all, what is the better place to put a parking area, if that's what we want, or a turnaround? Is it here?
What we're looking for is access to the property.
I think
what is the best area to access to the property?
I think that's it. I really do.
You know, whether it be a parking lot, a turnaround, like I said, there's two reasons why we need access. One is to enjoy the open space from the town side, which we've always wanted to do. And number two is the whole half a cul-de-sac or some way to get some kind of little turnaround in somewhere. Okay.
So I'm not sure. So what's our next step? What do you want to do?
Well, you mean I can talk to Zach?
Okay.
I'll talk to Zach and I'll come up with a scenario. I'll talk to him about it and I'll let you know. Or what the commission, what does the commission want?
Can I just throw a thought out there? So,
Sure.
so Neil, you know, it's not our job to say it's more marketable or less desirable because there's a parking lot up there, right? So
Yeah.
with the 6 acres, is it all usable where you feel like there's 3 lots, or does it get cut down to 2 because of steep slopes or anything going on with the property?
I would tell you that between frontage, you have a limited amount of frontage here I don't think you can get 3 lots in here.
Well, no, I know you'd have to revisit the lines, but right, the way you cut it and decided to cut that pie, is it 3 lots that you got in there?
2.
Okay, so you only think it's 2. So you have excess land, so you could take some away and still maintain the 2 building lots, correct? Because you need 2 acre zoning, so you have the frontage, so you have 2 acres, and so they're oversized lots.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so if you think that it would detract value because there's either turnaround up there or a small gravel parking area, we're not calling it a parking lot. What if out of our open space, we offered the foundation a little money to offset the value decrease because of this little turnaround.
Yeah, but where are you putting the turnaround? I just say, if the turnaround is where they've specified it, I don't think you have any problem at all. If the turnaround's up here,
Well, no, we think it should be up more where it's a better access point, right?
Towards the
That
end
was
of the
your
road?
argument, or that.
but no, but
yeah.
that is not, but the better access point is right here on Aunt Patty's Lane.
Yeah, I can't see where you're
I'm
pointing.
pointing to the property that's across the street from number 44, Aunt Patty's Lane, is really the best place to get in there other than the lot itself. I mean, that's fine. Anywhere along here you get in, but this
We're
location.
not gonna have access to it.
Hmm?
We're not gonna have access to it. I mean, all the best place to get in is up where parcel 2 is. So what are you
That's what I
talking,
mean.
John?
I'm
Right.
saying between parcel 2 and Seni on this map, you
Yeah.
got 190 feet of frontage, more
Right.
or less.
Yeah,
That's
but you got grades you're dealing with in there.
not much. No, the grades are better there than at the end of Aunt Patty's Lane. That's why you got to go out there with Zach.
You, okay.
So what? So Neil, what map are you asking for the two cuts, the free cuts? So I don't think Beth should be signing any maps if if the commission's in debate of where that property line is for the free cut on Aunt Patty's. That's the problem.
Again, the problem is, quite honestly,
This is done as a courtesy, John.
yeah, and quite honestly, the commission can't decide that. Seriously, I'm walking on some eggs here. I'm trying to get all this thing done with people that, you know, are making a gift to the state of Connecticut and cutting 2 lots in Bethel. And for me to go back and say, well, you got to put those lots in different places or make them different configurations is going to be difficult for me to do. It's easier for me to go to the state of Connecticut and try to get a turnaround and agree to.
I'm not asking, okay,
Yeah.
Neil, first of
Yeah.
all, I'm not asking you to get a turnaround. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not asking you to do anything. That's
What do you
number
want?
one. Okay, the only thing I'm asking for you to do is to, move, let's talk to Zach.
Yep.
Move these lot lines around and see if we can give the party what they need and the town still benefit from getting the possibility for doing something in the future.
Which is the best access into the park.
Yeah, not to the, it may not even, I'm saying into the Arnhold property.
Okay, let's have that discussion with Zach, because I think I've already had that with him, but let me have it with him.
Okay, but we will do it too.
Yeah, I know both of us, yeah.
Okay, and if there's some money involved as far as lot lines and things like that, is the commission want to pay for this?
Well, I'm not sure, that's not even been the issue. I mean,
Okay.
money has not been discussed by anybody. I mean, you
Okay.
know,
I mean, it's up to the committee. I just want money to get involved with it, and I don't want the Arnholds to get fed up and
no.
say, let's go wherever.
Nobody on the commission has a problem with the horseshoe lot in the front, right?
I mean, you know what, Neil? I think I need to talk to my commission too. And the reason for that is the town does have a substantial open space fund. And maybe they want to talk about that a little bit. We'll talk among ourselves. Maybe they could buy, they could be interested in making a purchase. I don't know if it means that much. Over on Aunt Patty's. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Anyways. Why don't we start with
If we're serious about open space, I think that's a conversation that the commission should certainly have.
I agree.
Positively.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So where are we leaving this? We're going to get Zach
what we're
involved
leaving
and try to
is
figure out lines?
Leave it with me, Zach, and Neil, okay?
We'll figure out something.
We'll figure out something before the next meeting. Or I'll be in touch with you all.
Okay.
Okay, but
Thanks,
please understand one thing, and that is, it's not, it's great that we're trying to make this happen and make it come together, but this is, these discussions are courtesy at this point. It's not something that you have any say over a first club by statute. you know? But at the same time, the way it is, they can't file a map until I sign it.
But I think it's important that especially the commissioners that weren't there back then, $30,000 was a lot of money to spend
Yeah,
on
we didn't know anything.
surveying back then with the hope or the idea that it was going to be all connected and the town of Bethel was going to be able to use it.
That's right. I remember
Yeah,
that.
but John, I agree with you, but I think that once we go through this with Zach, you'll see that in fact, this configuration is very accessible, provides very accessible property. And on the other hand, quite honestly, there's an 80-acre set aside of open space. In every other town, if you spent $30,000, you wouldn't acquire any open space to speak of. I mean, you know, that's a cost of getting open space. But I just, you know, as I say, I think that we got to work this out relatively soon because unfortunately, I get the phone calls every day. You know, when are we going to wrap this up? So I'm trying to.
But that's on you, Neil. That's not on us.
Yeah, I know.
That's on you. Don't, no.
Okay, we were waiting for you to sign back
The town.
on the last meeting.
No.
Right, we talked about this.
No. Because they were calling me.
I know.
And I said, I don't have anything yet.
So I guess let's sit down and see if we can meet with Zach. And by the way, the other person who's very familiar with all this is actually Dinas Fabricus, because he's been all over the site.
Yeah.
But I think to discuss, and I think what I'd like to know, is it more beneficial to try to get an access way at the very end of the Aunt Patty versus the area that we think is best at this point? Let's find out.
No. I would tell you the very end of Aunt Patty's Lane, it's not appropriate to get an access there, and you know it, and I know it.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
The problem is the best access, of my opinion, is where the stone wall is in the middle of this lot.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
That's
where, when you look at our topos, that's where the wood lot was.
Well, why don't we go forward with this and have you people have your meeting and have.
Yeah, we'll do it.
You convince the two of what?
Okay.
Excuse me? Yeah, we'll just meet, we'll get together over the next week or two and we'll work this out.
Thank you, Beth.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Neil.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night, Neil.
Night. Okay, Beth, moving on. Now you have discussions and miscellaneous regulations.
Let's table that item till the next meeting.
We will do that.
Like a plan.
And any commission comments?
No, there should be a folder in the Google Drive, David, about an easement for CLMP with some pictures under my P&Z report. Remember, I can't bring that up.
By Honey Hollow.
Actually, Beth, yes, you can, and they're all in the Google Drive.
Okay, well, let's end the evening this way. Okay, so Eversource is looking for an easement.
Where?
For this little piece of property off of Honey Hill.
Right across the St. Mary's.
Okay, so they requested it back in August. First request was back in August. I believe it was the week of the storm we had. And due to the lateness of the meeting, I think that we should table the item. That'll make it almost 2 months before we respond to the request to get an easement.
I think that's fine.
Eversource.
I can pull up the P&G staff report if you'd like, Beth.
You sure pull it up so they can look real quick, but I don't want to, no, it's up to you guys. It depends on how tired you are. You want to just table it to the next meeting? We can table it.
Yeah, I'd prefer we table it to the next meeting.
Second.
2 months doesn't seem as long as I waited for power to come back on my.
Exactly. Exactly right.
Okay, so we'll table it to the next meeting. That's all I have.
All right, commission comments?
You guys are
Hearing
great.
none. Public comments? BJ, do you have anything?
She's muted.
I'm letting her unmute herself this time.
Nope, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, if I may have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstention? We are adjourned. Thank you all.
And just remember that, and just remember, we have a meeting next Tuesday night dealing with